Welcome. Welcome to the Saturday Build Show. I am your host, Ben Estrino, over here at the Empower Studio. And today, we're going to be building, you guessed it, another PC. Today, we're going to be building a PC for Mr. Zach. I don't know if he goes by just Zach or Zachary, but we are going to be building for a local customer over here. He actually reached out this morning and was like, hey, I want to build a badass PC that'll run 4K. Can we do that, and can we have it done today? And of course, I never say no. So here we are, building a PC on Saturday to have it done, ready for pickup today. I actually did go to Micro Center, and I had to pick up some of these parts from Micro Center because some of them I didn't have. Hey, what's up, Kyrell, over there on the Twitch? Just for everybody's awareness and knowledge, we are multi-streaming. We're streaming to YouTube. We are streaming to Twitch. We are streaming to Facebook. We are streaming to Twitter. We are streaming to Kick. So there is a multi-stream. I don't have a chat up on the screen, which would be over there. The only chat that's showing up right there right now is the, I think, Twitch chat. So I apologize, I don't have a multi-chat on the screen. So I'll try to read out everybody's comments and keep everybody in the same conversation as we go on. So without further ado, Zach, let's get this build going because I got to get it done today. Let's get started. I'm going to send us down to a top-down view and we're going to run through the build out. Hey, Kenneth, over on YouTube. Hey, Ben. I'm playing Banishers on mine right now. Nice. Nice. Hope the rig is treating you well, Kenneth. We're going to go ahead and switch over to a top-down view. We're going to run through these parts for today's build. And then next, so Monday, we'll actually have 2 more streams. Well, 2 more builds in one stream, so... And that'll probably be 5 p.m. Eastern time for awareness. Hey, Flippy, what's going on? Woo, what's up? What is happening? All right, so today we're going to be building for Zach a badass PC that's capable of running 4K screen resolution on most AAA titles. So AAA title being like Hogwarts or Call of Duty or whatever you want to consider that, AAA, but a high-end title that requires a lot of oomph. It's me, Zach. Oh, hey, Zach, what's up? How's it going? Welcome, sir. Welcome to the stream. So we're going to start out with going through the parts. So we're starting with the CPU, which is an AMD Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. This has got the 8 cores, 16 threads, and a maximum boost of 5 gigahertz. So this bad boy here is going to handle all your central processing, which is why it's called a central processing unit, CPU. And then we have paired with that the NVIDIA RTX or GeForce RTX 4080 Super, which has got 16 gigs of VRAM, GDDR6X, and that is a 256-bit PCIe 4.0 graphics card. That is a beast. Very good value right now for the price compared to, say, like an RTX 4090. Really, you know, difference is the VRAM being 24 on the 4090 and 16, and there's some clock speeds and data clocks, etc., that are different. But this is probably the best bang for the buck in the NVIDIA department when you want to get to that 4K level. So this RTX 4080 Super is a badass card. We're going to be plugging that CPU into a B650 Gaming X AX V2 motherboard. This is a great board. We've used them several times here on the stream in the past, so you're probably familiar with it if you've been here before. We are going to also be using a kit of 32 gigabytes DDR5 6000 megahertz CL36 RAM. This is great RAM, solid, very stable RAM, and it's the Flare X5 series by G.Skill. So I always recommend this for AMD. I know it doesn't have the fancy RGB on it, but the stability with DDR5 is key. We really don't want to have random blue screens happening, so this RAM is very well trusted. Next up is our storage. We wanted fast storage. which is Inland TN470, 2 terabyte. And this is super fast. As you can see down here, it's 7300 by 6400 read and write speeds. A very quick drive, and it's TLC, NVMe drive. And then we also have a power supply here, which we went with a little bit bigger of a power supply than we actually needed for this graphics card, but that was so if Zach wanted to jump in, throw in an RTX 4090, he could without having to swap out the power supply. So we went with a Seasonic Focus GX 1000 watt 80 plus gold power supply, which is fully modular, also ATX 3.0 and PCIe 5.0 ready. So that means it supports that 16-pin 12-volt high-power connection on that graphics card, which is also with the new NVIDIA series coming out in probably the next 6 to 7 months or so on paper. That's the release date-ish. It'll support the 5000 series as well when those are released, because I believe NVIDIA is forcing that 12-volt high-power adapter connection, the 16-pin connector. Last but not least, well, I guess not last, but definitely not least, our CPU cooler, which is the LS720 by Deepcool. This is a great cooler, very high performance, and does a very good job of keeping everything cool, specifically your CPU. And then the Montech Air 903 Max in black is going to be the case that we're going to be building with today. And without further ado, let's get ready to rumble and build. Did you, Steve Anderson over on the YouTube channel, did you ever hear of NVIDIA overlay causing latency problems in gaming? That is render latency. Just wanted your opinion and knowledge of such a thing. The only thing I can think of that would be causing maybe latency or, you know, that input lag feel is the DLSS 3.0, because that is frame generation, and it is getting better. But I do remember or recall that being a problem. So if that's what you're referencing, then maybe. But the NVIDIA overlay, I've never heard of that actually causing performance issues. Hey, what's up, Lucas? Thanks for the Lucas the car guy. Thanks for the follow over there on Twitch. Weed and Sun. Sorry. Thank you also for the follow over there on Twitch. Metal Spring coming in with the resub. That is 9 total, 5 months in a row. Tier 1. Thank you, Metal Spring. That was at the beginning of the stream. But to go back to your question, Steve, I don't recall the overlay being a problem, but I know when we are tweaking or, I guess, tuning a PC, we'll generally disable that overlay. There's a lot of streamers that like to use the overlay for color correction. And I usually recommend against it for performance reasons. Yo, I'm getting a PC parts for my birthday. Can you give me any tips for my parts? That depends on your budget and what you are planning to do with the PC actually is what it comes down to. So if you want to share with me kind of that budget and maybe what you're planning to do with the PC, I might be able to give you some tips there. Also, you know, if you're going Intel, NVIDIA, AMD, you know, what type of build are you looking to do? A lot of different options. Yeah, no problem, Steve. And welcome back to the stream, sir. Okay, so I'm going to move some of these parts out of our way because we're not going to really need them right away. And we'll get started on the parts. You don't need the graphics card, the CPU cooler yet, and power supply. We're going to be starting with the motherboard, the CPU, the RAM, and the SSD. So let's go ahead and get this unboxed and get started. You have a 1.8K budget for a full black gaming PC. I picked my CPU cooler, CPU, and my GPU, basically everything. So yeah. What CPU did you already pick out? Start with the CPU, go from there. All right, so this is our AMD AM5 socket that we're going to drop the CPU into, and we'll get started with that. This is our AMD Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. So, get that plug. Socket. Yeah, let me know what CPU you're running and GPU. So I did build that low power gaming PC using the i3-10100F, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 CL16 and B560 ASRock motherboard. It was only $64, and the RX 6600 graphics card. Nice. How did it run? Yeah, the RX 6600 with the i3 is going to be. Even though it's like even though that i3 is 4 cores and I think 8 threads, it still matches that. Oh, thanks, Flippy. Thank you for the gifted tier 1 sub. Thank you. But yeah, that i3 4 cores, 8 threads. It should be equivalent to like an i7, 6 or 8, even maybe even 8th gen or close to it. 6th gen for sure. I picked a Ryzen 7900X, an MSI RTX 3080 Supreme 10 gig. I think you could do better, honestly. What are you planning to do with the PC? Gaming, or are you streaming, or what are you doing with it? Running great. The i3 was only $70. Nice. Yeah, you could get those i3s for pretty cheap right now. The 10th gen i3s. Get them pretty cheap. Alright, so we've got our AMD Ryzen 7 7800X 3D installed. Now we're going to install our RAM. Put it in A2 and B2 slots right here. And I've already opened it up, but this is our Flare X5 RAM by G.Skill. 32 gigs total. Each stick is 16 gigabytes. CL36 at 6,000 megahertz. Only goes in one way. It's notched. Put this in. Might be able to force it in. You'll know you're doing it wrong. You line it up and then till it clicks. And then you just make sure that these little clips here are latched in and that you could feel there's no more push on them. They're latched in. Gaming. So if you're just gaming, the Ryzen 9 7900X is honestly overkill for just gaming. I would actually recommend you to look at the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D over this Ryzen 9 7800X for just gaming. If you're not streaming, if you're not doing, even though the 7800X, this thing right here, which we're using right now, this will stream. You'll be able to use this and stream just fine. The bonus of the 7900X is that it has those extra cores, which helps more with streaming if you do a ton of different things on your stream. So it just depends, you know, what you're doing with the PC. But the 7900X for you is actually overkill. You could probably do better with a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D and get a benefit off that 3D V cache from AMD. Whereas the 7900X that you have there without the X3D doesn't have the 3D V cache, which I recommend, especially if you're just gaming. It'll give that graphics card a little bit of a boost. And with a budget of $1,800, you should be able to do something better than the RTX 3080. For example, the RTX 4070 Ti or the 4070 Super would be a better buy than the RTX 3080. Number one, it's got newer tech on it, better supports DLS 3.0, and also will outperform that 3080 head-to-head. So I would recommend the RTX 4070 Super over that RTX 3080. Well, it's either, and if you could get it to the Ti or Ti Super, that would be ideal. What was the CPU again? Lucas, the CPU is the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D. That is the best option, I think, that would best fit for just gaming, because it gives you the 8 cores and 16 threads, as well as that 3D V cache by AMD. Steve over on YouTube, under $500, I built a good value PC. I call it a humble man's PC. For sure, man. I mean, for 1080p gaming, $500, you'll probably outperform most of the consoles. I mean, yeah, pretty good. So next up we have for this build is a Inland TN470. This is 2 terabytes of super fast TLC read-write speeds. So TLC is going to make sure that it's not going to bog down. Drive. So if Zach's moving files around, for example, it's not going to start at a fast speed and just drop to a crawl, which is normally what you would see, especially on non-TLC, like QLC drives. You'll see that, because that cache fills up and then it's flooded, and then it has to wait. Whereas this drive, you'll pretty much just write, and it's just instant 100% of the time. So we're going to drop this in this top slot here. Starter. Heat spreader off, and then we're going to install the comes in at an 8. Drop it down, and we need an M.2. Your motherboard. Secure the drive to the spot so it doesn't move around. I'll make sure. And next, we're going to peel the plastic off the thermal pad on the bottom of this spreader, mounted on top of the drive. That'll help transfer the heat off of the drive onto this chunk of metal. It'll passively cool with the air that's blowing around inside the case. Hey, Luke. I love Gigabyte motherboards. Yeah, this one's great. This is the Gaming AX or X? Drawing a blank now. The B650 Gaming X AX V2. I love Gigabyte's motherboards recently, but their naming scheme, it just seems to get weird. Onto it, like a piece of tape over a piece. Yeah, Gigabyte boards have been a lot better recently, and also their software, which was my #1 complaint with Gigabyte, was also terrible the last like 4 years. Terrible when it comes to 1, their BIOS, and 2, their software their software suite for, say, updating the drivers or maintaining the board, it was just very difficult to use. And so when I'm building PCs for people that, may not have ever used a PC before, I like to try to make it as simple as possible for them to maintain, such as making sure their drivers are updated. So once Gigabyte released their new, I think it's like Gigabyte Center is what they call it, or whatever it's called now. Once that was released, I started looking at Gigabyte boards again. And there's nothing really wrong with the physical hardware. It's always been a software problem that I've had with Gigabyte, where it's just been impossible to use their software. But it's gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. So, thank you, Gigabyte. All right, so we're set with this outside of maybe adding the hardware. Do want to add the hardware for the cooler to the motherboard before we drop this in. That way we don't have a problem installing this cooler. And I can't remember if this cooler uses the pegs or not. I think it does. Yes, a Gigabyte GPU is being installed. I always try very hard to match the motherboard and GPU manufacturers when I build. So if I get a Asus motherboard, I'm trying to get an Asus graphics card. If I go with an MSI motherboard, I'm trying to get an MSI graphics card. If we're going with a Gigabyte motherboard, I try to get a Gigabyte graphics card. And I say try because, there's brands like Zotac out there that don't have motherboards, or XFX for AMD cards. Power Color, they don't have motherboards lineups, so you'll be in a situation where that happens. Also, like the big one, which drawing a blank. The Sapphire series, Nitro, also don't have motherboards. But yes, I try to match those up as much as possible. Yes, I agree. ASRock was better. BIOS, Gigabyte, new software. I love it. Yes. The Gigabyte software is much better than what terrible before. Let me tell you. I'm going to set that over there because we need this little box, which is the hardware kit. Going to tell me whether or not I need to mess with the hardware before we put this in or not. Because I am drawing a blank, I can't remember. Hey, what's up, A Classic Farce? Love it. Thank you, sir. Welcome to the build stream, Lucas. So I'm thinking Ryzen 7 7800X 3D RTX 4080 Super. There you go. There you go. Just make sure when you're buying the RAM that you're buying DDR5 with the Ryzen 7 7800X, obviously, because that platform, the 600 series chipset, is only going to support DDR5. Number two, make sure you're buying AMD Expo RAM. So if you look on kits of RAM, you'd be looking for this thing that says, I don't know if it's going to clear up or not, but it says AMD Expo certified. Look for that for your AMD kit, because that will ensure that RAM kit, also you can go onto the Gigabyte website and check to make sure it's on your QVL list. That means it's a kit that's supported on that motherboard and tested by the manufacturer. But really, the AMD Expo certified should work on most AMD certified boards. DDR5 Vengeance, also with DDR5 AMD, you want between 6,000 megahertz and 6,400 megahertz CL30 and between CL30 and 32. That's a good fast kit of RAM. And you could go on a higher clock speed, but then you lose stability. You can have stability problems. So 6,000 megahertz CL30 for me is my recommended sweet spot for AMD right now. DDR5. 850 watts enough for that build? This one? This one actually has a 1000 watt power supply in here. But for the build above by Lucas, that is a 850 watt for the 4080. Should be enough. The 4080, I think, recommends minimum of 850 watts. So if he's putting a lot of RGB fans in there, you might want to consider maybe double checking, but it should be enough. Now, if he is planning to do an upgrade, if Lucas, for example, is planning to upgrade to an RTX 4090 or maybe one of the bigger 5000 series cards when they come out, he might want to consider maybe going up to that 1000 watt power supply. Also, Lucas, with that 1000 watt power supply, make sure you are getting a PCIe 5.0 and ATX 3.0 ready power supply, which has the 16 pin 12 volt high power connector. That'll help take the connection directly from the power supply to the graphics card. So you don't have any splitters or adapters or anything in between the power cord and the power supply. You want a direct connection from the power supply to the graphics card. There's a lot of voltage or wattage, whatever you want to call it, running through that cable. Minimize the failure points. You had 5200 megahertz in the basket. I would take that up to 6000 megahertz and do CL30 for that RAM if you can find it. 32 gigs should be around the $100 mark. My motherboard is Asus ROG Strix B650EF gaming Wi-Fi. It's a good board, solid board. Make sure if it's a used or open box item to check those pins immediately when you receive it. So if there is a problem, you can send it back. This PC is so quiet, I can hear it when it starts up. Can't even hear it. Plus, this thing never gets hot. I think I will run it this summer. What CPU cooler did you put on there? Keep things cool in the apartment. Yeah. I mean, I do crazy things like vent it out the window. That's what I used to do in my room. My parents probably hated me. All right, so back to this. Sorry. Got off on one of those side missions, you know, the side quests. All right, AMD. Looking for AMD and firm right here, showing that we have hardware. Have to remove these plastic clips. Add AMD hardware. We'll take care of that before we put this in case. Not used. 5 a.m. 90 degrees yesterday. Oh. Yeah. That's already too hot, man. Too much temp. Too many temps there. Here is five. Threadripper. But we're not building with a Threadripper, we're building with an AM5 CPU. So first thing we're going to do is remove this plastic. Let's go ahead and zoom back in here. So you can see what the heck I'm doing. Removing the plastic brackets that come with the board. Some coolers will use these, that's why I wanted to double check whether or not we were going to be using these. And I actually haven't built with a deep cool cooler in a while. Been on that Thermalright and Arctic liquid freezer kick for a while. But those just weren't available at Micro Center, so deep cool would be the next option for me. Bro, I thank you so much. My whole cart went down from like $100. Yeah, no problem. No problem, man. What cooler are you using by chance? Actually, I just kicked off another thought as I was talking about coolers. if you're going for like best bang for your buck, a cooler for AMD I would highly recommend is the Arctic Liquid Cooler 3. Arctic Liquid Cooler 3, which is, or Liquid Freezer. Sorry, Arctic Liquid Freezer 3. Wow, that was so hard to say. Let me type that in. So I know I didn't confuse you. Actually, I spelled that wrong too. So, anyway, you'll be able to find it. But the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 is absolutely an amazing cooler for AMD AM5 CPUs. Definitely would have been in this build if it was available at Micro Center, because I needed to pick up the parts and build it today, this build. But that is a cooler I recommend, even over the NZXT Kraken 360. And the Kraken is going to be almost double the price, if not more. The Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 should be around 120 bucks or 100 between like 100 and 120 dollars. They come both in white and black, and they have RGB. But if you're looking for that screen, the Arctic Liquid Freezer doesn't have one. I can't remember if that Kraken has a screen or not. I'm pretty sure it does. Like, maybe, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't remember if that one has it or not, unless it's like the Elite or something that has the screen. Okay, there we go. We've got our brackets ready to go, so we don't have to deal with that while it's in the case. So we could get the case out next. Let's zoom out. Get the case out. Slap this board in there. Also got a data recovery running in the background. Not sure what happened with this customer's PC, but they brought it in and they said Windows won't boot. And got it on the bench, booted it up to, or tried to boot it up. It was slow and would fail to start. Come to find out, number one, he has two drives in there. One, which was an old hard drive from an old PC before this PC. And number two, an SSD that has no partition. The way I found out is I booted up into Hirons with, we call it like Windows XP Mini, or Mini XP is what we used to call it. Nowadays, I think it's just like a light Windows Linux version. Linux with a Windows GUI. But I booted that off of a flash drive, and then I took a look at the partitions and found the two drives. One drive had partitions, the other one didn't. Unfortunately, the one that doesn't have a partition is the one that he needed data from. So, I am trying to do a data recovery to see if we can read from that deleted partition. I'm not sure what happened, but the partition is just magically gone. So, we're trying to recover it. Thank you for the suggestions, but I like the aesthetics of the Kraken. Yeah, no problem. It was just a suggestion for if you want to save a few more dollars. That Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 will definitely beat that Kraken with cooling performance. And it's cheaper. .4080 is super fantastic. Yeah, this thing's going to be one hell of a PC. For sure, Steve, for sure. All right, so here's our case. It's the Montech Air 903 Max, which features a beautiful mesh on the front with three 140mm fans already pre-installed, which are addressable RGB and PWM, and a black 140mm PWM on the rear. Supports 360mm AIO at the top, ATX motherboard, and also has the ability to install a couple of fans down here above the basement as intake, is what I would recommend, for some additional airflow if you wanted to add more. There's a ton of space on the backside for mounting or for cable management and mounting 2.5-inch SSDs, and even has a 3.5-inch tray for hard drives, etc., which I think can support up to 2 drives total if you stack one on the top and then slide the other one in. And then of course a full, it can support the largest power supply, ATX size power supply in here. Let's just make sure we get that blurriness out of there. Weird focus. All right, so, oh yeah, and it also includes a PWM fan hub and an addressable RGB hub, which is the 3-pin 5-volt connection, which syncs both to the motherboard. So, lots of good value here in this case. And it comes in white and black. And then they also have a basic version, which has basically the same thing, just no RGB fans. By the way, do I need a USB drive for Windows 11? Yes, you will need that. Now, if you are not buying it and you're planning on just buying a key and downloading it, you'll, one, need another laptop or a computer, download that Windows 11 to a USB drive, install it, or run the media the Windows installation media tool, which will create the bootable USB drive for you. So all you need is that laptop or another PC, that USB drive, go to the website, download the Windows 11 installation media tool, and then have it do its thing. Just follow the prompts on that tool to have it set up as a bootable USB drive. And then you just plug the drive into your newly built PC, and it should automatically detect that it is a bootable USB drive and go into the Windows 11 setup. So it's very easy. You just have to go through that process. It'll save you money from having to buy a full retail copy of Windows if you buy a key for like 20 bucks and then download your own media on a USB drive. Yep, that's all you got to do. There's probably 1,000,001 videos on YouTube on how to do it. And that's actually on my list of YouTube videos to create, just to have it on the channel so I can reference it. Don't have it made yet. All right, so we got the motherboard sitting in the case. Now I got to actually mount it with some hardware that was included with the case, which is your mounting hardware, your screws. And Montech is so nice that they actually label their screws. I know you can't read that unless I zoomed in because that lens does weird stuff like that. But they label all their screws. You know, which screw is used for what. And I like that, especially if you're new to building. And it helps guide you. So this motherboard has the back shield already on the back of the motherboard because it's a fancy motherboard. Some of the more budget-friendly motherboards will not have the I/O shield, you know, already pre-installed. So you'll have to install that. That's just one step if you're building another style of PC. Oh yeah, I'm gonna. You're on a gaming laptop. Okay, cool, man. Thank you, bro. God bless. Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Make sure you follow, and I think you already did follow. Ask any questions. I stream generally at least once a week. Hey, what's up? Besley Buzz. What's up, man? How's it going? Thanks for the follow. Good afternoon. And welcome to the build stream. All right, so 9 screws total to mount this bad boy. You just finished tinkering with my computer yesterday. I keep getting that itch. Oh, yeah. I understand that itch. Now, when you build 733 computers like me in 1 year, the itch tends to go away. But I still have that itch. Like, I actually have some big plans for my personal rig, which is still a Ryzen 7 5700X with 32 gigs of RAM and a RTX 3070 Ti. I'm going to be transferring that to a new build, going to the AM5 platform. Haven't decided if I want to go all the way up to a 7900X 3D, or if I'm going to go with the 7800. I haven't decided on the CPU yet, but I already have the motherboard, I think the motherboard that I'm going to use for this build. I don't even know yet. I haven't decided, but it's going to be a liquid open loop that I'm going to be doing for my own personal rig, and just so I can have a showpiece here as well. You know, at the studio, when people come in and pick up their PCs, they can come in and check out the showpiece. Like, ooh, I don't know. And I've personally never cared to have a open loop for my own build because of the maintenance behind it, and I still don't think I'm fully on board with it. So maybe just build a showpiece, and that's it. All right, so there we go. So that open loop stream series is probably coming soon, probably later this year. Especially when I try to go play Gray Zone on the RTX 3070 and struggle. Motherboard is in, RAM is in, SSD, CPU all installed. So next up, we have to install let's do the cables for the top panel here. So we have all these buttons and connections here at the top of the case, which is our power button, our reset button, LED button. The LED button's actually already plugged in, but our AUX connections for our microphone and headset, USB Type-C, and USB 3.0 connections, those all need to be plugged in, which are part of all these cables that are already on the back of the PC here. Let's get these plugged in. Most of these are going to plug in at the bottom, although USB 3 and USB-C sometimes is right below the RAM slots, which now I'm drawing a blank, even though I've used this board several times on the streams. Confirming with my brain. USB-C is there, USB 3 is on the side as well, but a little further down. Okay. Pull those. And then we also have this hub up here that we need to sync up with the motherboard. It's got a PWM connection for the case fans, and then also a addressable RGB 5-volt 3-pin connection. That's fair, yes sir. Ideally, I'd like to go 100% air cooling with the 7800X 3D Liquid Freezer. Liquid Freezer 360 is a bit overkill, but yeah. Yeah, I know. But I mean, if you're running that CPU hard, you know, for long periods of time, then you'll want that cooler. The 7800X 3D is a little bit of a toasty chip, in my opinion. It runs a little hot, especially if you're not undervolting or anything like that. So it will run a little warm, in my opinion, warmer than I would want it to stay. That's my personal preference, you know. I like to see it cool. But the Arctic Liquid Freezer 3 is an excellent AIO for the price. The performance you get out of it, it's amazing. That's usually what I recommend for AMD AM5. Go, we got these connections down here. Alright, so this addressable RGB connection, and okay, need to know where these go. PW on here, but that label pump. Try to use some of those. Here's the pumps down here. Assuming we're doing an RGB over there. Do that. And USB-C, which we saw was pretty much up here. Run that back. Our front panel connector. our power button reset buttons. This is our HD audio. And this is our USB 3. All right, so all these connections need to be plugged in. Thankfully, I got a good chip. All-core UV34, nice. And I swapped the Noctua fans. Nice. So you put the liquid freezer on there. Yeah, that's a great cooler. 23rd of June, I'm getting my parts. Nice, Lucas, nice. Now you'll be able to do a build. Maybe if you're doing a build on the same day I'm doing a build, we could do like a build race. But not fully fair because I have to sit there and talk on the stream a lot. So generally this is the same on every motherboard, but your power, reset switch, etc. the same layout on every motherboard. You'll want to double check. Most motherboards will have them labeled on the board, or you could go back and reference your motherboard manual and layout. And what I've liked seeing is cases coming with a single connection for all of them. Simplify it. Becomes a standard. Like standard. Got our USB 3.0 here, which would curve forward, plugs in one way, like nice. Got a little notch on the top, so you're in the wrong way. Really, the graphics card's going to cover that up. Won't even see. And then our USB front panel USB. Yeah. And then that'll have the 24 pin right next to it. All right, last connections here is HD audio and our addressable RGB. So that addressable RGB is going back to the RGB hub at the top of the back of the case. I want to make sure that's connected all the way. And then our HD audio connections. So there's all of our cables at the bottom plugged in. Nice and neat. Wait, doesn't Gigabyte give you the little block to plug the case? Yeah, probably. I just don't ever use the dang thing. So actually, this motherboard did not include it. This was the gaming, the B650 Gaming X AX V2. Did not include it. So probably the Elite or the Aurorus boards lineup probably would include it. But this is the Gaming X series. Yeah. But either way, generally when they include it, I don't even use it. I just do it. I don't know. I've always been annoyed sitting there doing that and then having to... It's the same thing for me. But yeah, if it was like... I actually might reroute these cables where, in this case, that would have been a benefit. Because I don't think I like them going up right here. You can see what I'm talking about right there. I think I'd rather bring them up through that center hole. I'm just going to do that. Get it done and over with. Do it right. It's going to look better. Redo. Ben's not happy. Not happy. Last one. There we go. Much better. So instead of having the cables come up through this hole, we hit them over here, and it looks way better. Lucas, yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah. The H6 Flow is a really nice case. Yeah, I do like the H6 Flow by NZXT. Good case, solid case. The H9 Flow is also a very good one. A little bit more room to rumble in there. But the H6 is probably the best bang for your buck on that lineup. The H series by NZXT. Definitely. Alright, next. Let's do EPS cables and then we'll our CPU power up here in the corner. We want to get those plugged in before we put the AIO in because it'll be nearly almost impossible to get in there. So let's take care of that before we put that AIO in. And for our power supply, we have the Seasonic Focus, also known as a Focus, GX 1000 watt, so this plus gold. Yeah, this is probably going to be the last power supply he needs for his build, for the rest of this build life. These Seasonics include a 10-year warranty, right? On this one? I say it does, and then I say, is it a question as a question? But yeah, 10-year warranty. Right on the box. So, kind of shows how much Seasonic believes in their product. It's going to last 10 years. At least. Great quality power supply brand. If there is a brand that I could recommend, it's always going to be Seasonic. PVGA used to be on the top of the list, but they kind of fell behind by not really delivering a PCIe 5.0 power supply quickly enough. So I moved on. I think your back hurting. What? My back? My back's always hurting. All right. Power supply cables. We need EPS cables, not the Molex. Come on, EPS. Here we go. One's labeled C2, so that's 1. And 2. Got a 4-pin and an 8-pin connection, so we'll just get both of them plugged in. And then we'll come back to the rest of these once we get the IO plugged in. Usually I do the power supply last. So when do you think power levels will start going down in CPUs and GPUs, I think? So if you've noticed in the past couple of years, a good example is the 1000 series and then the 2000 series of NVIDIA GPUs. You'll notice, outside of introducing ray tracing, but I guess a better example would be the 2000 series and the 3000 series. Yes, there was a leap in performance, but if you look at it, we went from a very, I guess 3000 to 4000 would be better. I don't know, if you look at it, there's a leap in performance, but there's also more efficient parts. So the 4060, the 3060, and the 2060, and the 1060. If you look at that lineup alone, you could see that they are trying to decrease the power requirements. Now on bigger, better cards, you're obviously, well, they're increasing the efficiency while increasing the performance. That's the best way I could put it. Trying to like collect my thoughts on the question as I'm thinking out loud. But the 1000 or the GTX 1060 through the RTX 4060, very good example. And you can also see it on the, the i3s. I think they've gotten more efficient, haven't they? Than say, like an i3 from a few generations ago. Or at least they've increased the performance and at least maintained the level of efficiency. Cables in. I think it's a modular power supply. It makes it here for us because we didn't have power supply in. Cables in. Now we're going to do the AIO radiator on the top. This is the full LS720. 160 million. Mounting it hoses to the front, so on the top, we need all of our cables. Fans that we're going to add. We're also setting the fans as exhaust on them. They are saying the RTX 5090 could be $2,000 and up to 1,000 watts of power. Well, I mean, the 4090 is basically already at 1,000 watts power. I mean, 600 technically, but yeah, that's crazy. I sure hope they don't require a 1,000 watt power supply, because then we're going to have to start looking at like 1,600 watt slash bigger power supply built. And your standard socket, your 15 amp or your 10 amp isn't even going to support much higher than like 2,000 watts. So I got to think about that. We have to have a special outlet in our house just to power our computer because we have a performance PC. Or start doing it like a miner and plug it into two different circuits. I mean, evening, Army Vet. Welcome back to the stream. Yes, we did see the Northern Lights. Adrian, my daughter, Empower Little Miss 1, the oldest, she actually posted some pictures in our Discord channel. Pretty cool stuff, man. I'm sure you probably saw it better than us because we're further north. I will have to post a few. One shot looked like a huge phoenix in the sky. Nice. Yeah, I know. There was a couple of some really cool shots I've seen all over the internet as well. Pretty crazy. My wife was really into it last night. All my girls were. So. Something pretty cool to see. Especially being this far south and seeing it in Michigan. Pretty rare to see down here. So definitely was and that this one complete the chain. We're mounted top of the case. Now I'm talking away from the microphone. There we are. By the way, I'm in Romania. Oh, nice. So yeah, some of your pricing may be a little bit different over there than here. Still watching your stream. Nice. I'm in the United States of the America. There we go. Found the area. Nice. Steve, $2,000 GPU, $400 power supply, and redoing the breakers in the house to support the amperage. Yeah, seriously. Hopefully we don't have to get to that point. I mean, we're pretty close. Nah, it's 1,845 bucks. Nice. Good. Yeah, when you were talking about it over there in Romania originally, when you were first talking about it, I didn't know it could be a currency difference. Number one, and there's also different import taxes involved. So stuff over there could cost differently. Of course, I'm naturally thinking US dollars. All right, there we go. Oh, I think Sorry. There we go. Now we're ready to block the CPU with this block. I want to try to do it down. if we can. Two. British pounds for some reason. Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird. Never really thought of the currency over there. Never had to. Alright, so there's thermal paste on the bottom of this cooler we're going to be using for this build, which is the deep cool stuff. Fine for a good year. Not going to put any extra or special paste here. Today, build. Fine. Deep cool is actually pretty good paste. There's actually a pretty good, somebody by the name of Redneck Engineer who had, I know. There's a lot of good custom builds too, but he did a pretty good video on, you know, testing different thermal pastes. And he found that the deep cool stuff actually did pretty good. So I'm gonna take his word on it, run it. No, I've ran it before also. There we go. Then gotta run these cables affected for our pump and the addressable RGB on the block itself. Oop. And there we go. Starting to look like a gaming PC, yeah? He said Great Britain pounds. British pounds. Lucas over on Twitch said British pounds. So. Steve over on YouTube was asking. All right. Flip this back over because I want to complete these connections. Off here. That's interesting. Seriously. Somebody left the door open. this connection, RGB pin. And then this RGB connection is going to go to the hub. Don't want to get too crazy with the cable management yet because we're still got to put a power supply in here. Graphics card. Point I'm getting here. Oh. There we go. Cold. I'll peel these last one. Done. Budge it up. Next up, graphics card, power supply, cable management, hardware cleanup, firing it up and testing. 1845 British or Great British pounds is 2,300 US dollars. Wow. Yes. A little bit of a difference there. $1 equals 0.798 to the dollar. Yes. Yeah, Lucas just gave us the estimation for the 1,845 Great British pounds, which is 2,300 US dollars. Which, you know, I would expect that build. That's actually right in the neighborhood of this build. Same ballpark. Here's the RTX 4080 by Gigabyte. And this is one thing I do like about Gigabyte, although I didn't like how that was already floating around in the box. Comes with a GPU bracket. The reason why is this card is very heavy. And if this did not come with a bracket, I would have purchased a separate bracket for this. But we knew that this one came with a bracket. So, and this is what I mean by don't use these. Don't use these adapters. Only in a pinch, for a short period of time, sure. But don't use them long term. They look like crap, and they have failure points. Or they introduce failure points to. Which is why we bought a power supply with the right connection on it. If you are going with a RTX 4080 Super, yes, you will want a GPU bracket. Check to see if the graphics card you are purchasing includes one. Some of them do. For example, this Gigabyte card does. And if it does, then awesome. If not, there's several different options. You can have an L bracket or just use a kickstand, which the kickstands are usually like $10 and the easiest to install. So, kickstand is probably the best option. But if you're going to move the PC around, remove the kickstand, because it will roll around and act like shrapnel. But look at how big this thing is. It's massive, right? That's what she said, I know. Alright, so we're looking for plastic. One. pretty sure there's plastics here. Also have plastics. Most graphics cards have them on the fan over the top here. There's a little plastic film here. You want to remove them because eventually they fall off and get sucked into the fan and either make it sound like a running dirt bike or interfere with airflow. They are a pain in the butt to remove. They are there, I promise. Most of them have them, just check. Well, it doesn't help that it keeps rotating. There's tools out there that will help remove those a lot easier. That card is too big, Ben. Better send it to you. Nice try, Army vet. I don't think Zach would appreciate that. Be like, wait a second. What's going on here? Alright, I need to actually verify how to... Pretty sure... Pretty sure this goes... Okay, this is a unique bracket, by the way. Not your typical bracket. Well, that's nice. Not nice, but... Okay. Nice. All right. Oh, that card, yeah. My GPU comes with a bracket I just checked. Awesome. Good deal. Sorry, I'm well invested in this bracket that I'm installing right now. So it's a little L bracket. Or I guess the screws that mount to the case that mount the motherboard. So it's turning into a GPU bracket. The last thing we're going to do is put this on. Oh, that. All right. Put the bracket in. Special. I had the card flipped. Yeah, I knew that. Jeez. What RAM does he have? This is the G-Skill Flare X at 6,000 megahertz. We're running CL36. The reason why we're running CL36 is because it's a kit. that is included with the motherboard, the CPU, and the RAM from Micro Center. See? Wasn't that bad. That holds the whole back of the card up. Now you got to screw the card in on the front and the back. How big these cards are getting. That card. I know. Feel like it's overcompensating for something. Dang it. Nothing. Oh, I can't seem to... Dropping it in again? I have to drop it in there at least once. At least once. One time. Build. Never perfected that, no matter how many builds you do. Still gotta drop it in there. Alright, that's power supply. Let's clean some of this up. There's too much going on over here. I gotta clean this up real quick. Hurts my head. Much better. Now I can think. Oh, I don't need any of it. But I can think without having to, like... Bleh. Oh, yeah. Beefy. Beefy card. Alright. Now, let's drop a power supply in here, shall we? Sound like fun. Hell yeah. Back to our Seasonic Focus 1000 watt. $80 plus gold. I am going to install all of the power cables on a modular power supply. That way, no cables magically run off on Zach when he brings it back for up tuning or whatever. We'll know that all the power supply cables are there with the system and not missing. Sorry, I have to go. Bye. Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for joining us thus far. You can always catch up and see the machine later when we finally get to the end here, which is very close, if you were curious to see what it looks like. But have a good one, sir. Thanks again. Come hang out again some other time. Anytime. And also let me know how your build goes. Yeah. So those are all our peripherals. We already have the EPS cables plugged into the motherboard, so they're just dangling right here. We'll get those plugged in last, just before we slide the power supply into its final home, final destination. Our 12 volt high power cable that I keep talking about for the graphics card. Important cable. Runs up to 600 watts, but not for the 4080. I think it's like 400 and something on the 4080. Then I'm going to plug in all the cables, so I'm going to plug in the PCIe cables as well, even though they're technically not needed for this build. Just to have them there. Be there. They won't be misplaced. Gone missing. Only 4-pin board. There. Now, get in. Four screws will hold the power supply. There we go. We have our EPS cables nice, routed, very nice. Next, we have our 24-pin routed here already, basically ready to go. We'll just send that through. That plugged in just a moment. Last, we got data and power, which is 12 volt high power PCIe 5.0 connection. Okay, right here. That bad boy. Cut off. Flip that. Because, like, flipping the tag. Terrible. Gonna put that end on the power supply. Towards the GPU. Which direction it goes. We flip it over. Right? Good. 24 pins. Motherboard power. Very nice. And our GPU power cable decided to run off and leave us high and dry. There we go. Get in here. Back we go. This plugs in here. It's a complete connection on both ends, of course. Neat. Try to give this one or two more zip ties on this. Go. Probably drop a zip tie up here. Well, these in line seem to be rebelling. I don't like rebellious cables. We will squash that rebellion immediately. We don't. Going to. Nice and clean. The way we like this. Order. We've had order with our cables. I don't know why I went German there. Okay. Now we just have two SATA connectors and some cable management on the backside to deal with. And we're golden. Ready to fire this bad boy up and test it. Then would prompt us to loading Windows and getting the rest of it done. So Zach can come pick this up today. That is our goal. Have this ready to go today. Almost there. Almost ready to fire this thing up. It's probably the most satisfying slash boring part of the stream. The cable management. But we want to make it nice. That's what we're getting paid to do. Build a nice quality build. That way he can open up the back side of it and be like, yeah, look at this. Does yours look like this? That's what we would hope would happen. That's what she said. The chillest part of the stream. Stream, yeah. Kind of just, you know, there, doing its thing. What do you guys think so far? Is that clean? Acceptable? I think it looks pretty clean. The last thing we got to deal with is that. The extra power supplies. Power supply cables. Which, I mean, is pretty easy. Gotta fold them up. Tie them. Seal the deal. Make it official. So, we need zip ties. Big ones. Gold zip ties. You thought I was going to say something else. There we go. That fancy and clean enough for you, Zach? You're still here? Maybe you fell asleep watching? All right, who's ready to see this thing fired up for the first time? They'll sleep on us. Fuck. All right, she's pretty, boss. That was the backside. This is the front. Front looks even more pretty. Look at that copper glow. Copper down there. Copper heat pipes, they're just glowing. Ready to be fired up. Don't worry, we'll get a side view here in just a moment. So you can see it from the side. You are standing here in person, which you will be soon. Let's see if Ben can still build a PC the right way. See if it posts for the very first time. Posting time. All right, side view, here we go. Let's adjust this view here slightly. That was too much. Sorry about the bouncing. Sorry. Oh. All right. Sir. Zachary. Tell me when you're ready for me to hit this power button. I'm waiting on you to give me the command. Punch it. We are currently waiting for the motherboard to proceed through its initial tests, which we call power on self-test. It's a post. So it has to test the RAM, the CPU, and the graphics card before considering it a successful post, which it just completed its successful post. Now this camera is not doing it justice. I could just say that. And the flashing is RGB fans on the graphics card, the Gigabyte design. Unique. Yeah, it posted. It's gorgeous. Indeed. It's pretty. All right, so all I got to do now is install Windows and drivers, and holy crap, it's already 8:30. That went fast. So I've got to install Windows. I got to do the BIOS update driver, so it'll be about an hour before it's ready for pickup, and I'll be here. So if you want to plan to be out here within about an hour, I'll have it ready to go. Unless, of course, I run into some weird issues. But I'll, of course, let you know. I don't know how far away you live from Lake Orion, Michigan. Oh, but it's pretty good that we got it built. About a half hour out. Nice. So I'd say about 9:30. You should probably be here or around that time. I'll let you know when to leave. Awesome. Yeah, wait until I text you too. I'll make sure to keep in mind that you're a half hour out, so I get you here right when I'm finishing it. Yeah, there's no time wasted because I know we're getting late here in the evening. But I will have it ready. A little bit of styrofoam there from the packaging. PC looks great. Thank you, Luke. Thank you. Turned out great. I think we were just in the 2,500 or 25 or before taxes. We were like at 2,500. Oops. Gotta stop touching that. I keep making the camera bounce, making you guys sick. Awesome, no problem. Take your time. Absolutely awesome. Awesome. Worth it for sure. Loop says it's worth it for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a 4080 Super with a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte M.2 NVMe Gen 4, super fast TLC read-write with an AIO, some clean RGB on it. Smooth. With a high airflow case, keep everything nice and cool. And a 1,000-watt power supply, so if he wants to upgrade to a 4090, it'll just be the swap of a card. All right, guys, that will conclude the stream for today. I appreciate everybody hanging out. We had a blast. We had tons of people here. A lot of familiar faces, flavors, a lot of familiar faces, and a bunch of new people coming into the stream and hanging out. That was pretty cool. But until next time, which will be Monday night, we'll be building two builds. So I'll see you guys on Monday night, and tell all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day tomorrow. Have a good rest of your weekend, guys. See you next time on Monday. Thank you, Army Vet. Have a good night, sir. Salute from Alaska. Thank you, Loopy. Some Giant 88. Have a good night, sir. You too. Good night, friends. Don't forget to call Mom. Yes, do not forget that. Hope to see the lights. Is that going to continue, Army Vet? I'll go look it up. All right, guys. Have a good night. GG's. Where's my end scene? I completely lost where I was. There it is. Have a good night, guys. And I just realized the microphone was turned way the fuck up. Have a good night, guys.